about it, right? Because the way things are broken down, in old systems, everyone kind of played together in the same ecosystem and everyone was together in the same tournaments, and therefore, the metagame was quite singular. Whereas now, this way is like, the Open Cups have had different lists being successful than, say, Grandmasters have, and then the Masters Tours have had different lists being successful than Grandmasters have. The Chinese system has their own stuff thrown in there as well. So that gives all these points of disagreement and points of collaboration even when things come together in these large fields like the Masters Tours. And I think that's why you're seeing these Masters Tours be one of the biggest points of innovation. It's where the Anti-Bomb Warrior strat first appeared. It's where Paladin has had its real resurgence coming out this time, even though it has kind of crashed in win rate quite heavily on day 2. So I do think that the way the system is broken down does kind of lead into extending the freshness of the metagame over time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, it's certainly been interesting to see things broken down.
Yeah, the difference between an in-game format changing the meta and a weirdly out-of-game formats changing the meta as well is definitely interesting. Not something we've had too often in the Hearthstone and life cycle of competitive play. But we are going to dive straight into GivePLZ versus MM78. Both players are at 7-1 going into this final round, and regardless of all the talk we just had about varied lineups and crazy plans, both players bring in fairly straightforward, arguably, this kind of 4 best deck style lineup.
Yes, there is the Mage Rogue on the side of MM, which I am surprised to see as a lineup that is doing so well here. I imagine this is kind of preying on the Paladins in a weird sense, because it's a lineup that looks a little bit weak to Demon Hunter, which is something that we've been obviously seeing a lot of. I think it is now the highest win rate deck in the tournament, and one of the most brought as well. But Paladin also been a huge talking point. And the Mage and Rogue combo, while both being fairly weak against Demon Hunter, are both extremely strong against Paladin. So that could have been perhaps carrying MM through. Whereas GivePLZ, we've seen before, this is kind of just 4 good decks. This could quite easily be a Grandmasters lineup, right? With the Demon Hunter, the Druid, the Warrior, and the Priest. This is something that we have seen a lot of throughout our 8 weeks of Grandmasters.
Yeah, diving into it, though, we are going to get this matchup I think we both are big fans of, which is the Demon Hunter versus Priest matchup.
Yeah.
And I definitely think the onus, it will be on M8 here. MM8, that's MM78, there we go.
Just call him XQC, we're calling everyone else XQC.
Yeah, true. QXC, XQC, whatever. Yeah. And the onus will be on him to work out as and when he wants to try and use that healing, right? And when he can feel safe enough to avoid it and maybe hold off for bigger pyro combo turns later on in the game.
Right. Yeah, pyro combo, definitely one of the most common ways to go about it. But I do think the matchup is very, very flexible, and it's hard. Like, it's a very multi-staged matchup in terms of learning how to play it, because firstly, you just play it, you mess around a bit, you try and figure out some stuff to do. Then you learn the general rules of the things that are powerful. But then the stage above that is learning when you do have to do things that are a little bit different, right? Because you can learn that Pyro Apotheosis is what you're supposed to do, and then still lose 50% of the games that you play because that's never really given to you as an opportunity, right? Like, really improving your win rate as Priest and making it into a strong favorable is also about knowing how to get away from the Pyro combo and just, like, playing aggressively for tempo with big minions, for example, is a win condition that can come up in some spots as well.
Yeah, although the minions aren't big, the minions are there for GivePLZ, actually, in this game, getting off to a very good start, very minion-focused start. The double mana feeder Panthera is huge in not only putting some threats on the board, but also keeping that card draw going, because again, I do think it's a matchup for the Demon Hunter where they want to have a few big combo turns. They can, play with the sort of chip away steady game plan, but really you want some power turns, right? Whether it's the big blade dance to take control of the board, or whether it's just being able to maybe 1-2 punch your opponent to end the game.
And straight away, MM is just going to dump one of the strongest things available in his deck with the Cabal Acolyte combo, drop the Holy Smite for the board clear. And I do respect this, because not only does it answer the early board state, which I think is very nice here, but it also makes a play like Soul Shard Lapidary on curve much less attractive, because it's not just an uncontested 5-5 that ends up going face. And I do think stopping early chip damage is a big deal. I definitely agree with your assessment that card draw is king for the Demon Hunter in the matchup, and staying high on resources and putting together a couple of big burst combos is great. But you can build a really nice platform for yourself if you're able to stick 2 or 3 minions in the early game and get that chip damage through.
Here though, MMA is gonna follow up with that Spellkin and another Holy Smite. It might just be worthwhile here. Everything else doesn't look so good. I don't think he needs to use a Renew yet. And maybe it's just good to just say, you know what, Holy Smite the 1-3 away, push some damage, stick 2 minions.
I wonder.
I don't mind it. The only thing that's holding me back from that right now is the Penflinger Holy Smite combination could kill like Glade Bounds and 5/5s, right? By throwing those out together, which does seem fairly powerful to me right now. And the 1-3, of course, is just a 1-3 at this point. It's not a particularly big deal.
Yeah, it's true. I wouldn't mind him passing, of course. I just, I think he... Oh, he does go for
Oh,
this
I
was
would
the one I was
despise him
surprised.
passing, Raven. The mana is getting spent on something. You can be assured of that.
I was a little bit surprised with that. I think with a Sethic in hand and a no real need for the healing, I'm a little bit surprised he didn't hold on to it.
I actually would. I kind of agree with the surprise for the Renew, but I just would have dropped the Radiance that turn. Just spent the 1 mana. It still, still gave full value for the healing. I don't see any real reason why it wasn't playable that turn.
You know, GivePLZ playing like lightning this game. Not really been able to review his turns because I blink, I take a breath after talking about MM's turn, and it's already back to MM again.
Yep. I mean, pretty straightforward turn, I would imagine. 2 Lapidaries in hand. They both get to go face as it currently looks, so I don't think GivePLZ spent too long considering other options there. Now that Holy Smite combination can start to come together, but the Evasive Worm also just lines up extremely well into this kind of board state.
Yeah, that's it. It's easy to get locked into, oh, this Holy Smite does kill it. It's like, right, you could just play a big dragon that kills it as well and have a big dragon on the board. That seems pretty good to me. You're always going to have access to that combo. And also, even if you don't end up comboing it, Holy Smite's still very good with Sethic in hand, right?
Yep.
So it's just more spells that is beneficial with that Sethic. So I do like using, other options if they're available instead of that Holy Smite.
I think the big point of pause there was that the Evasive Worm turn kind of left a perfect Blade Dance board for the opponents. Just kind of 3 mid-rangey minions that if it was like second Lapidary Blade Dance, for example, would be kind of a blowout turn for the opponent. Whereas using some spells instead kind of reduces the value that a potential Blade Dance would offer. But I agree with you. And there's certain situations in Hearthstone where it's just like close your eyes and do the strong thing, which is what MM ended up doing.
And didn't get punished with a Blade Dance, so he still has this mana feeder on board, still has this Spellkin. These have survived for quite a long time, a surprising amount, actually.
Yeah. Also a surprisingly large amount of health on the other side for how long they have survived as well.
Yeah.
I wonder.
This looks to be the Sethic turn, though, right? There's so many options here. There's the Holy Smite to kick it off with, just to kill the 2/2. And then you can just decide after that, with what you generate.
Yeah, looks solid. He's actually going to save the Smite still and just kick it off with the Renew instead. Okay, I'm fine with this too. Thought still seems fine, yeah. Don't think he needs that many more Wave of Apathies in his hand right now, since he has quality removal. He doesn't necessarily just need to be straight up stalling the board. Between Smite and Soul Mirror, he's pretty comfortable against just about any board state that will come down. This is a tough turn to not overdraw from this point.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to do it, isn't it? Aim that Renew face, so you only get 1 card.
Seems fine. Still A, concealing that Radiance information, and B, holding on to the Radiance for an additional cheap proc for the Pyromancer if he does end up picking the Apotheosis, which is one of the arguments for holding on to it long term.
And also got to feel a little bit more comfortable as well, just having that Soul Mirror sat in the hand. So it's just there. It's in the late game. You're always worried about Militia, but Soul Mirror is just there right now. So that job is just done. Doesn't have to worry about that card at all now.
And so begins the march of 1,000 Penflingers, Raven.
Yeah, and look at this. It's interesting, isn't it? Penflinger's been used to clear up a relatively not a small board, but outside of the Sephic, maybe a board he could have ignored. It does use up a lot of damage, but now I think it's getting more and more important that GivePLZ gets to a skull or something that's going to draw up cards. Even a Chaos Strike would help a lot right now.
Yeah, we kept mentioning how card draw was so important during the early turns, and you can see now that if you don't hit that skull, if you don't hit efficient cycle, he did even have the Pantheras in the early game and really hasn't been able to keep pushing through his deck. Still 21 cards remaining. Obviously, some of those are soul fragments at this point, but it still goes to show how many resources he's lacking here, and MM just looks so comfortable right now against this lack of resources on the other side.
Yeah, the fact that we're moving on to turn 9 and MM hasn't even had to consider his health to a large extent, right? Yes, he's healed, obviously, but it's never been, oh no, I need to heal this turn at all. And we're about to go into turn 9. Speaks volumes to how comfortable MM is in this game right now. I think that's the second time today I've seen Glavebound Soul Fragment exactly from a Thought Steal.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, it's not a skull, but it's probably the next best thing to pull off the top this turn. Actually be able to answer this board state, preserve some minion presence of his own.
A 200 IQ play as well. If you're scared of Soul Mirror, just make Soul Mirror worse by trading all your minions away.
Just funny.
Yeah. MM very clearly looks like he is content to kill every single thing GivePLZ has in his deck right now.
Yep. And this is what I mean about having to kind of be reactive to what's happening in each individual iteration of the matchup, because this clearly is a kind of kill-em-all game. It's an outlast game. It's a potential fatigue game, because MM just hasn't hit the resources. It's not the kind of game where he's just hit like 4 Draconic Studies and he's just playing big threats and he has early Apotheosis, so he can just push Apotheosis for tempo in the early game. Like, look at his hand. He has no way that he can really threaten GivePLZ right now. So all he can do is just efficiently remove threats and heal back up, but he's doing a great job of that right now.
Yeah, GivePLZ has done a great job of drawing Skull though, because he was running out of time, honestly. Gets the Skull on the side. Going to get value from these Pen Flingers as well, pushing that little bit of extra damage.
Is that actually the way to go about this? Is there never a world where you actually want to spend 4 mana on tempo after the Pen Flingers? Interesting.
Well, what tempo does he have, right? He's played Gravebound, he's played Lapidary, he's got another Lapidary and Cane in hand for full price. What was he actually going to draw? I think it was more likely he got, you know, the Chaos Strikes, the Twin Slices, stuff like that.
That's
which
true.
Isn't going to make too much of a difference to this specific turn anyway, so I actually quite like getting the use there.
Okay. Yep. All right.
Game on.
So, do you want to start this turn with Pen Flingers? Is there no chance that you want to spend 4 mana on tempo this turn, Raven?
Poor Warlock.
What's left in the deck, though, Sol? I mean, you know, there's Lapidary and a Cane in hand, and I think it's more likely he gets Chaos Strike, Twin Slice, and things like that to play.
Just for a sinking moment there, I thought you'd forgotten what you replied because of the pause in the middle, but no, thanks for playing.
I feel like you should have followed up with better luck next time, regardless of...
Yeah.
And unfortunately for GivePLZ, the timing of the Soul Fragment means that Glavebound wasn't reduced, and that's actually a big deal. That is, any 5 drops are huge coming off Skull normally.
Yeah, and honestly, like, jokes aside, Glavebound was the biggest card in my mind when I brought that up in the first place, because obviously we'd just seen it Thought Stolen, so we certainly knew it was still in the deck, and obviously that comes off of Skull costing 2. Which, you know, but then you know, your point is still valid of like, what are the other cards in his deck that he would then want to spend that other 2 mana on at that point, right?
And this looks like a very easy hand to play from GivePLZ, but I think it's a little bit harder because You could just say, oh yeah, you know, just play the 2/5 drops and go, and that's probably the plan. But GivePLZ does need to just piece together a long-term plan, right? Because I don't think it's as simple as just assume everything's going to work out for him. He knows MM hasn't really had to do much the last few turns because GivePLZ hasn't put any pressure on, so he's still got a load of resources. But as we can see, very quickly dropped him down to 14 health, which is the danger zone as far as I'm concerned when the Demon Hunters had so many card draws in the past 2 turns.
I think he's dead. Is he dead? I think he's dead to Penflinger Twin Slices here with the Marrow Slicer.
I don't even think he needs that. I think he's dead to just Kane hero power, even with that Chaos Strike now.
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah, fair point. Before the Chaos
that's
was
8
gone.
damage just with the Twin Slice.
Yeah.
12 from the weapon, 3 more from Kane.
How did this happen? What occurred
Skull
here?
into skull. That's how it happens, Sol.
Yeah.
All of the cards. And also, no Apotheosis.
Yeah, no
That's what
Apotheosis is a very big deal. 2 Cleric of Scales in hand, both completely unactivated. That will kind of do a number on your chances of hitting Apotheosis. This is a big problem and a big criticism, and honestly, when I saw like Cabal Acolyte get announced and everyone was freaking out about it, I was like, nah, this card will be fine, because it's a 2-card combo, and Priest will never draw 2-card combos because they don't draw cards, completely discounting the possibility of Cleric of Scales. And it's that card tutoring and actually, you know, functioning as card draw to hit specific effects that I think makes a lot of this Priest deck work. So if you cannot hit that activation on the Cleric of Scales, I think you're really, really going to struggle to be able to put anything together.
Yeah, and GivePLZ just ended that game in a very dangerous way, potentially. I think he just let us look into his soul, because he could have ended that game in a much quicker, straightforward fashion, but he chose to Penflinger his opponent to death, which, you know, tells us a lot about him as a player, I think, at least, Sol.
I mean, yeah, it's possible that is just the lethal he saw, because it's kind of the lethal that I saw as well. Like, that Kane had been such a non-factor on the left-hand side of the hand for so long, whereas the Penflingers were like the focal point of multiple turns.
It's just he had like a Chaos Strike and a second slice, I think, in his hand when he ended the game, and it's like...
Yeah. Yeah, it was lethal 6 ways from Sunday, to be sure, no matter which way he went about it. But GivePLZ now goes into the Druid matchup, and he does get the Demon Hunter on the other side. But crucially, there is the bit of antiquated technology in there for MM78. He does have that Magtheridon at his disposal, which he does have in the opening hand as well, which I think gives him a fighting chance against Druid.
Yeah, and it is one of those, it is a matchup that not only Magtheridon's strong, but it is one of the matchups you can quite confidently drop Magtheridon on 4 with the follow-up on 5, right? Because in some matchups that are more minion-focused, the opponent might not let you have the board space to actually summon the 3/1/3s that you need to with a Magtheridon on curve. So you have to like kill a minion and then set up for like the turn 7 play. Against Druid, it's almost certain, if not a certainty, that if you play Magtheridon on 4, it will always summon the 1/3s, and you're not getting overly punished. So again, yeah, very, very good card in this matchup specifically. Unfortunately, no Shard Chatter to go for it. He could just play Magtheridon and start chipping away. He has Penflinger Soulshare.
It's pretty close, right? Because he can play the Magtheridon and just immediately value bump one of the 1/3s, and then he has Penflinger to kill that one plus Soulshare to kill the second one. He's really not that far away.
Well, he has Penflinger to kill that one, Soulshare to kill the other one, and then Penflinger again plus the 2/3 bump again potentially, right, to kill the third one.
Yeah. I'm living in a world where that dies, because that's, you know, you have to find the solutions if that happens. But yeah, if it lives, certainly you're in a much better position. But yeah, I think either way you end up jamming it here. I think, you know, you don't have the perfectly clean solution, but you have enough solutions to be making it work.
And also, one of the assumptions of it dying is another 1/3 hits it, which does the job.
That's true. Yeah, that's fair.
So it does the same job for you anyway. So yeah, not too bad here.
All right, let's get this Iron Bark in play.
No. The real play is Omu, innovate, and then trade into it, and then go for the overflow. Heal them all back up again.
Or you can do it all, right? Because the Omu Innovate will actually set him to 7 mana, which will activate the condition, essentially.
Yeah.
So he could do both of our things?
When our powers combine.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Time waits for no one.
They still like an Ironbark coming down here.
Yeah.
If he's not going to go all out silly mode, then Ironbark seems very good. Because it's not often your opponent would... Oh, he's just not going to.
Wow, okay. Just
right.
have a 12/12, I guess. Sure.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Is he less bothered because he gets Guardian Animals? But he could have Guardian Animals next turn anyway. Huh.
Well, regardless, we take the 12/12.
I'll be completely honest. I'm not 100% sure if Penflinger survives or not. I'm sure he does.
I grow impatient.
Yeah, it should do, right? It survives all sorts of onboard effects when they go off when you do this kind of thing. I've never seen it specifically with Magtheridon, but my assumption based on other effects is that it absolutely will bounce back first. I lied. Okay.
Yep, okay. I was just going to say, I feel like it should have done, but I haven't seen this exact interaction, so that's why I'll always question it.
Right.
A worthy sacrifice, though. The Penflinger did a good job.
Yes. Yeah, I think I'll trade my my 1/1 for a 12/12. If it ends up not coming back to hand, though, there's actually just no reason to use it, right? You might as well just use the hero power instead and just save it at that point, though, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, he tested it for us, so thank you.
Yeah. My dude.
Much like the Penflinger itself, MM78 made a sacrifice for the greater good.
So now, depending on what gets pulled here,
Time waits for no one.
he does allow himself to retain a guardian animal this way.
Okay, so honestly, was this just insane from GivePLZ? Just knowing he could kill the Magtheridon anyway? Means he didn't have to bother trying to like heal or buff or whatever.
Like, I don't want to go that far because I still think it's stronger to like prevent your opponent from doing it because he has like double guardian animals in his hands, right? So like he can probably just do that kind of play against the Magtheridon, whether it comes down that turn or 2 turns from now. But I don't necessarily see the reason to make the MM have a 12/12 that turn and force yourself to answer it. I do like. I like the part where he had a plan of dealing with it, and I think that's a very, very nice setup and a good recognition from his side. Well, but I don't necessarily like see the reason to allow him to have it.
The way I see it is, if he made it difficult and MM couldn't get it right, then does he play guardian animals into it? You know, and then it goes off and kills his guardian animals anyway, and then he just misses, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the way I would look at it anyway.
Yeah.
Here though, Mount Cellar coming down. Making a bit of a nightmare board for MM to deal with here. Does have Blade Dance, does have Twin Slice. Those are the boxes you normally have to take, and a 1-mana Marrow Slicer as well. Can he... Yeah, he can actually do it all. He can Soul Share the 3/3 as well, can't he?
He can, yeah.
So he guarantees the Blade Dance hits the taunt, basically.
Right. Still trying to work out the most efficient way to do it because, you know, for example, like Marrow Slicer, Twin Slice, Second Slice is 8, and then you could potentially try and use the Soul Share for that extra 3 that you need on the Mount Cellar, but then you don't have the guaranteed hits on the Blade Dance that you really want, which, you know, you're talking about guaranteeing that with the shot of the Soul Share instead.
You could have tried that actually, and then at worst you can always just swing in.
Yes.
And do the Soul Share, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why, see, I'm like trying to get super greedy here and avoid swinging into the Mount Cellar, so I get to swing face with all of this damage, which is, you know, a much bigger deal, but sometimes you probably just can't get that greedy.
Well, Yeah, I think I'd like actually maybe trying it. And if you miss, okay, you swing in, but the mount cell dies, just like you swung in anyway. And if you don't miss and hit it, you get to whack them in the face.
Yeah, for the cost of them like having then a 2-2 or a 3-3 left on the board at the end.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting turn that actually, very interesting.
Yeah, it was really, really hard, which is, you know, why I was sort of sat here in silence for most of it. So there was a lot of different options, a lot of different ways to go about that.
The tough call. MM can clear this board if he wants to, but it does involve him, sorry, not playing Skull.
Right. I think that is a price worth paying. At some point around this point of the game, you are expecting Druid to have to take time off on like an overflow turn because they're running out of just straight up threats in their own hand to be able to keep playing. It's just a little unfortunate for MM that that situation is not arising. GivePLZ just keeps drawing absolute gas off the top to be able to make board after board after board after board. With the idea being that MM can line up his Skull turn against his opponent's overflow turn, so they're both able to just refill on resources at the same time, but just hasn't been afforded that luxury. GivePLZ has just been drawing too much heat.
Yeah, some soul fragments coming from the Skull, they're obviously not great, but honestly, the 0-mana Shard Shatter, the Silence, all these things are actually pretty clutch right now.
None of them are particularly helping him count to 28, though, which is the problem he has in front of him right now.
Does he have to just assume he needs to try and clear the board instead, and just say, Druid's got 3 cards, and hope?
I mean... kill 'em all strat against Druid, it doesn't sound particularly successful, I'm going to be honest.
I think kill these and hope there's no Ysera strat.
I see.
Is that more fair?
Sure.
I'm not saying it's a good strategy, by the way. I'm just offering it up for the sacrificial thing for you to just destroy as a suggestion.
Offering it up to the gods of sarcasm.
Yep. I am still waiting one day, because I don't think you've said it at least in these words yet. But to say, oh, you know what, Raven, that is a good idea. If you were an idiot, then just completely just destroy me. I am waiting for that. So where it builds me up that little bit more, where I'm like, oh yeah, okay, nailed that one, didn't I? And then it's just like, for a fool.
There was a thing that Admirable really liked for ages. He kept bringing it up where I said some like complete nonsense for ages, and he was looking at me really confused. And I said that was my impression of a dumb person, and for some reason he just loved that. I don't know why.
Crystal Power, his 3-1. It will get him the brooms, right?
He has used one already on the Magtherodon beatdown, right?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So I believe he has one left
Still
at
have
most.
one left, yeah. It's a weird sacrifice, though, isn't it? Because Crystal, yes, he's nowhere near dead yet, but does he need a broom? Like, could he not just have the flexibility of even healing his Mount Seller, potentially? I guess he has Overflow, so who cares? I don't know. It's one of those games where do we even have to question too much with him being this far ahead?
Right.
But this is where you gain and lose even just 1% here and there, right?
Yeah. I think specifically drawing a card on that turn with the Crystal Power also increases his outs of hitting exactly Ysera sooner rather than later.
That is true.
Right? By thinning, like, he wants to top deck that soon so he can actually play it in a position where he's, you know, has board presence, has pressure on his own, so he can actually snowball.
And how does MM even begin to take this board apart?
You don't pick the ones.
He's gonna go for Militia here.
Yeah,
5 souls, definitely not bad.
Yeah, it's just about the only decent answer he has here, right?
Yeah, I imagine he's gonna leave the Pythons up, right? And just ignore them.
Oh, really? Mana Burn? Wow, I thought Hero Power or a Slice here would actually represent a lot of utility in the way that these 3/3s then parcel out, right? Because you could Twin Slice, although I guess the 4 damage into the Mount Seller actually doesn't change that much. So yeah, I like just Hero Power to deal the 3 damage clean to the Cobra.
It saves him more health, right? Because he could also use the 2 damage to do the final 2 to the Mount Seller. So...
Sorry, just got very amused at top decking excess mana.
Oh yeah, because of the elephant, right?
Yep.
Or the Elic, sorry.
Indeed.
On the job.
He's going to get value from this rush now. Brilliant. It's actually pretty insane.
Growth again, and then I imagine hold, because, yep, again, he is in the business of top decking Ysera. That is just what he's interested in. That's the game ender right now. So if he draws the Ysera here, he can just jam it down and then immediately rip the excess mana yet again.
And although we saw this a similar fashion in the last game of saying, well, the Demon Hunter's opponent's on pretty much max health, and there's no, there's not exactly a load of damage lined up. I do feel this is a slightly different style of matchup, where one, MM doesn't have that much good stuff left, but also he just doesn't even have the damage to stop this, or stop this fast enough, should I say?
Yeah, the first game was, Demon Hunter not really drawing any gas and then just drawing it all over the course of 2 turns and throwing it at the opponent. This is Demon Hunter having drawn most of the gas already and throwing it at minions to not die, which is not really the same scenario as you were saying.
Time grows short.
And again, more fate. Rem's found his new least favourite minion in his Bloated Python.
Yeah.
But just sending more weapon damage into minions is just the opposite of what he wants to do right now.
Hey, finally. Sometimes rewarded.
Nice mana burn.
Yeah. Still throws it out, still has the excess mana on deck to be able to rip out, hopefully, for a GivePLZ fan, a game-ending board right now, just to put any slight seed of doubt in the state of this game to bed, put him in a 2-0 position.
There's
yes.
2.
Alright, as the world's #1 certified Elic hater, I will confess it put in work that game. That was actually pretty sick. Fair enough.
That was pretty good. The only thing that would have made that better is if the consume magic on the Kayn drew a dragon and it was a taunt dragon. That would have then been perfect.
Yeah, I like where your head's at. But I'll go, no, the only thing that would have made that better is if somehow a Silas got generated in that game, and then we could once again expose which casters don't know their left from right for some reason.
Hey, I was pretty okay with that one, actually. I was pretty confident it just makes sense.
Yeah,
but apparently there's a lot of questions to be asked.
I will confirm, Raven was actually on the side of understanding something perfectly immediately in this case, which cannot be said for some others for some reason. I don't really understand.
I might struggle with some Hearthstone stuff, some of the more complicated nuance of the game, but my left and my right I've had down for a few years now, so I'm pretty happy about that one. It looks like GivePLZ, of course, leading the series 2-0 now to be a decent spot now again. We're going diving back in, but the other way round of Priest versus Demon Hunter. And GivePLZ, at least from a quick glance I just had, does have access to an Apotheosis already this game.
Indeed, and he does have the full combo essentially with the Pyro Apotheosis, but still might just have the liberty to be able to throw out a Wild Pyromancer if he sees a Raise Dead here potentially, but he does not, so he is going to hold on to it. That's one of the best possible curves that you can have in a lot of situations is Pyro plus Raise Dead in your opening hand, because the 3-2 body of the Wild Pyromancer is actually really clutch to fight for you in the early game, just to stop these little bits of chip damage coming through, but you need that security of being able to cast Raise Dead, like, 1 or 2 turns later to get exactly 2 minions back, including the Wild Pyromancer.
Right. I was speaking to, I actually can't remember, it might have been Rinder or Derek, I'm not sure. I was speaking to him about like how different plays look when priests are holding a raised dead in the
Yeah,
early game,
yeah.
right? Like, oh, just throw out a Sethic. If it lives, sick. That's insane. If it dies, no, just get it back. It's just not a problem. Whereas when you don't have access to that, your plays become a little bit more restricted.
Also, how different plays look when priests draw their ramp compared to where they don't, because make no mistake about it, like there is ramp available in this priest. That is a 4-9 on turn 4 coming down and absolutely dominating this board already.
And I'm going to take the simple approach and just start stacking some damage to face, kind of ignoring the Mage Scribe, which I think is fair because you can't do much about it anyway.
Yes. That second Apotheosis is so clutch. I was just about to like call back to what we were talking about before, about, you know, different signals in different game states, and like you've stuck a 4-9, which is a pretty strong indication that you should just slap Apotheosis on it and just make the huge minion. But having drawn the second one, that's just not even a debate anymore, right? Like you just absolutely do it because you already secured the second.
Ooh, I was half expecting to consume magic there from M8, but I again, that turn probably looks a little bit strange, but facing down this Mage Scribe, what does a Lapidary do? What does a Gladebound do? Nothing. So I actually really like that coin into Skull. Try and get something that impacts this game. Obviously, consume magic would be a big deal, but even this Blade Dance can be strong with paired with a Twin Slice or this Lapidary, and next turn he has a ton of damage now. And I do think maybe a lesser player or whatever would have tried to just play minions on curve this game.
Oh, I love Priest so much. Like, that's probably the right turn, but, like, how can you play a deck where that was the right turn and actually sleep at night? That's my question.
I don't know. Ask him if he wins the series or not. Yeah, Lapidary for 2 mana. Blade Dance for 0. Insane.
Yeah.
We're going to whip in the Twin Slice there as well.
And this is the reason why what he did was probably correct, is that you have a 6/12 lifesteal on board. You're only losing to one very specific play, and it involves a massive Blade Dance for 12 plus damage. So why play anything else? He's going to Blade Dance this board anyway if he has it most of the time. So.
And again, on the other hand, from MM, I like the way he's been playing this Demon Hunter. Obviously, he got the cards he needed from the Skull, but even then, he could have swung into this minion and said, oh, you know, I'm going to actually keep a Blade Dance, but I love that, no. Blade Dance the minion away for free, hit them for 12, and suddenly, Lapidary, Gladebound, back-to-back turns seems very powerful right now when GivePLZ is sat on 16.
Agreed. Actually looks a lot like he's winning from this position, unbelievably, having been facing down that huge minion early. As we mentioned, and as we keep mentioning, GivePLZ does have that Pyro combo to fall back on, but the damage is going to come through thick and fast right now for MM.
So I think it's just 12 because he can't really bounce the Penflinger if he goes for the Lapidary second slice anyway.
13 because he still played the Penflinger once, right? So you still get the 1 extra damage.
I grow impatient.
Oh, I wasn't counting the minion. You just hero power though, right?
Yeah, you just hear about the same thing. It's 13 either way.
Yeah, I wasn't counting the minion attack, the 1/3.
Sure.
I just didn't look at the board. But yes, not enough is the answer really we're getting at here.
Mm-hmm.
But even so, maybe just like hit and use a Gladebound instead.
Demons.
Interesting.
Maybe it's just...
The 5/5 is a better shape on board right now, I guess, although it's pretty close since the 1/5 is waking up to full size on the next turn anyway, if you do just intend to fully go face.
I think I would have been a fan of actually re-equipping the weapon. The trade. I would have been a fan of re-equipping the weapon if any of these other minions were reduced, but the fact he can't Gladebound and Kane, or Lapidary and Kane next turn, he can't fit them in, means that the weapon doesn't really achieve too much.
Sure. I like it. And suddenly that turn of stabilization there from GivePLZ, I think, has put him back into quite the comfort zone here.
Oh, yes and no. There is a lot of damage still in MM's hand. Lapidary Glavebound, Marrow Slicer, 2 swings, the Cane, of course, whipping in this Penflinger when possible. And now MM has the additional question with this draw as to whether he goes for this Militia. It's not the biggest. I think it was just 2 souls at a glance there, but it's still relevant. It's a 5/5 and 2 3/3s, and he could even just hero power and rush one in to be able to kill off this Glavebound to leave the minions left relatively uncontested. So it's another tough call because it doesn't deal any damage to face this turn.
Yeah.
But it builds the board and it just delays using these Glavebound, using this Marrow Slicer. So really tough call there, honestly, from MA, and I'm still not sure what I would have done here in this situation.
I do kind of like this, though. Like, it's consistent with what he did on the previous turn, which was fight for board. I think last turn was the window where maybe he could have just straight up raced and gone for just a straight, like, bursting through the amount of healing that he possibly has. But I think in this position, that window's already been missed, so he needs to actually stick some minions so that GivePLZ can't just straight up throw all his mana into healing every turn.
And it is tough when you're in this position as Demon Hunter to accept that the game's going to have to be another 3 to 4 turns minimum with the sheer amount of mana you have to spend.
This is going to be the Reno Pyromancer turn now for GivePLZ. He's just slowly considering how to go about it. Raise Dead is very nice here since he immediately gets that health repaid.
Yeah, this is a nice turn, isn't it? Just get everything refilled. Suddenly the health, the game now is definitely going to continue. And also, not really talked about too much this game, but there is that cheeky Alex Straza just in GivePLZ's hand, right? And has been all game. And suddenly just plopping an AA on the board and bringing MM all the way down to 15 is a consideration.
I grow impatient.
Yeah, I think to be clear, like, even if MM had gone hard race 2 turns ago, he would probably still be conceding to the Pyromancer line. It's just he had the opportunity to maybe race down like a handful of Renews and Radiances with that kind of hand, whereas by skipping that 1 turn of damage and committing to board, he was kind of setting out for the long game. Like, I think either way he was going to be in trouble against the Wild Pyromancer line. But he is here now and he's back trying to fight for board. And I think also, bearing in mind just having seen the information and been reminded of it, that he is playing the Magtheridon, he does have a lot more board presence in his deck to fight with, right, in terms of actually trying to win board states.
Yeah, and also he has seen one Apotheosis, right?
Yeah.
So he already saw one very early in the game.
Yep.
So I think it's reasonable with 17 cards left in the priest deck to, have a good go of it not being in hand as well.
Man, I want this Penflinger so badly. Just give it to me. Is mine? No?
Oh, it's tough though, isn't it? Like, is it really worth it? It can't be, right?
The problem is, again, because it's the Magtheridon list, like, honestly, Cabal Shadow Priest Shadow Word Death actually looks like a pretty strong turn here. But it's the Magtheridon list that you're dealing with, right? So what's your Magtheridon answer if you Shadow Word Death this 5/5? But on the flip side of that, what's your answer to this 5/5 if you don't Shadow Word Death this 5/5?
Let me change your mind.
Yeah. I was even looking at if you could just actually ignore the Penflinger and just say, like, play Twilight Drake instead and Death and heal. And then just save it for a Wave of Apathy, because then that's also a great play for Magtheridon. They get a 12/12, you steal it.
Speaking of 12/12s, would you like one this turn?
Could have one, couldn't you?
Yep.
If you've just seen a Shadow Word Death, there is no better time. As far
You've
as
seen a
I'm
Shadow Word
concerned.
Death and a Cabal Shadow Priest, right? It's kind of a double whammy in terms of ways that you'd get punished. It's just I do think it's pretty effective in this matchup as a board clear, though, right? Because that's what Priest does against you that's also very effective, is just play these big, thick minions that you don't really have answers for.
Yeah, the other question is like, yeah, can he just do this, right? Go face, and if GivePLZ does something funky, then just go for the Max Aerodon and say, well, you've probably definitely not got anything now.
Yeah, I actually like this a lot. Oh, Sethic, but all the targeted spells have gone down the drain at this point.
Is there like a Nova? Just to Nova? The extra heal? No, okay, he's gonna play the Sethic.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Bit of a distraction, just any encouragement for MM to occupy his turn doing something else than hitting him in the face, because that's what GivePLZ is scared of right now, right? Like, even after going back to 30, he is suddenly facing down a very problematic position.
And MM could get the Mag Therodon this turn. There are outcomes that make it more problematic to get, but he can get it 100% of the time.
Oh yes, yeah, with the cane as well in the emergency situation.
Yeah, it's unfun but doable.
Yeah,
and I like it, honestly. I think it's good because there's worlds in which he can just go face with this 4 attack and push Kane post Mag Therodon, which would be sick. And honestly, if he's not doing that, is he just swinging and equipping an Eldraki? Is that really good enough for this turn?
I mean, he's seen almost the sum total of all the healing at this point, so straight up damage to face is appealing, but he's probably just like a Chaos Strike or a Twin Slice away from really thinking that that's a realistic possibility, so I do like going for it here.
Oh, he's holding. Huh. Okay. Did not expect this one. This was a surprise mystery outcome.
I agree, was not looking at this line either. I'll tell you one thing this does make terrifying, and that's generated Apotheosis, because you know there's a Pyromancer left. You know, you have seen both Apotheosis at this point, but there is just a freaking Sethic on the board.
And also, what if the board gets wide? You can't guarantee Mag Therodon then, right? If the board's wide enough.
Alex Straza. Yep, cute little play. Like it a lot. Got value out of the Penflinger, got value out of the Raised Dead. Stuck himself back up at 15, which is a very big deal indeed. And this preloaded Mag Therodon might just pay off huge with the top deck Shard Shatter Mystic.
Well, if you're just going to draw that, then fine.
Yeah.
Make us look stupid, Mr. MM.
Yeah, dropping the cane as well, maximum tempo. This is pretty much his game-ending push at this point. He is very, very much all in. Protects himself from the Cabal Acolyte combo as well if that ends up getting generated. And that is the wrong 1-mana spell to be finding off the top right there. Mage Scribe go fish. Shadow Word Death exactly. So you can Mage Scribe, Penflinger the Cane, Holy Smite the Cane, hit Shadow Word Death. Oh! Okay.
But it's without the Cabal.
It is. But it means he's alive. Being alive is better than the alternative.
Suspense. Consume magic. Okay, more cards. +2. That's 7
Wand
so
Maker,
far.
Twin Slice.
Close.
I think every card in the history of every outcome of when you've called something has been close to the outcome. I'm
Hearthstone
really
card.
unsure of what your definition of close is.
It's a Hearthstone card.
Ah, good point.
Yep. If anything, what you got to think, Saul, is look at that mana burn, right?
Oh!
Okay, that's huge. I'm going to stop making stupid jokes. It was funny, though.
I'm sure it was. Just don't care. It's all the way back up to 6. With 0 on board. The lofty heights of 6 health, Raven. Wait, I lied. He doesn't even get to heal. What am I talking about?
Yeah, it's mana burn, right?
Yeah.
The card that was like Twin Slice, remember?
Yep. Oh, the whiff on the draw, though.
1 damage off.
GivePLZ now has Holy Nova on the following turn. This is razor fine margins.
Oh, no targeted again, but he can Nova Cabal, right? To steal the 2-1.
Your mind is not your own.
That's true. Yep.
Still gets to heal, of course, very important. So still gets that hero power up to 5.
Dance, puppet. Dance.
Taunt in play. 5 health. Is there a Twin Slice left? Because there kind of has to be at this point. It's the only out. Skull of Gul'dan, we're going to find out. Whatever these remaining cards are, Twin Slice off the top. Twin Slice Blade Dance is going to end this absolute marathon game here from MM78. But in the end, his kind of spaced out, considered approach did end up getting them there in the long run.
Yeah, that was a big one, wasn't it? I did have a feeling there was a Twin Slice left, but that was absolutely huge there. Of course, yeah, MA knowing the cards he had left in the deck meant that Skull was huge, but he did need the Twin Slice. If it wasn't Skull or Twin Slice, it was one of the 2 Soul Shears. I don't think that would have been enough, right? Wouldn't be able to get through, and then maybe slowly he can out-heal that. So that was a huge win there for MM and keeps him in this series, getting the win with the Demon Hunter. But honestly, it's becoming one of my favorite matchups for a very long time, Demon Hunter versus Priest. I think it's so intricate either way, and although there are different ways to play it, there's also enough similarities to get good at it, if that makes sense. It's not like, oh, turn 3, random things have happened, you can't really get good at this, whereas I really think this matchup, you can see the good players versus the bad, or the less good, should I say.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that matchup for a long time. I know for a while, like, Priest was my, like, America's server deck, because I used to, like, my good MMR was on Europe, and then I used America's to, like, test decks for Grandmasters and so on. At some point, it switched, and I was, like, top 100 on America's, and my EU MMR was dumpster, but regardless. But, like, that, I played that matchup on America's for a very, very long time, just jamming Priest for multiple days and weeks in a row. I know Abar, our producer, would come and spectate me a lot of time and be very critical of my play against Demon Hunter, because I would generally play for fatigue in all situations, and it would frustrate the living heck out of him. It was just like, why didn't you just play that big minion and hit him in the face? And I just, shut up, I'm winning. But yeah, it's a very, very intricate matchup, and certainly the tempo options are there, and I do think people have playstyle tendencies in that matchup, and I think that's the really big point to break, and how you can actually become, like, have a massive skill edge in that matchup is that no matter what your tendency is, or whether you play for tempo or kind of play for fatigue, is knowing when to break those tendencies and do the opposite from what your instincts tell you.
Does mean we're going into this game number 4. MM are going to be on this mage now. GivePLZ, of course, on that Priest once again. MM's mage, I would say, is the standard. The 1 Devolving Missiles, 1 Arcane Intellect, 1 Conjurer's Calling list.
That's right.
Which I like a lot. This is just, for me, the mage list right now. And it hasn't seen too many changes because of the nerfs, right? I don't think Solarium was ever going to go anywhere. And honestly, I don't think even the most critical of the evocation nerfs was ever going to get it out of the deck, right? The card is still just too good.
Yo, tempo 2/2. Spend your mana. Gonna pay out.
One way
It's
to
just
make
extra
Soul
damage.
like you.
Yeah.
Spend your mana every turn.
Dude, this has done 2 of my favorite things in the entire world, which is spent his mana and pushed 1 extra damage this turn. Like, MM's just a hero. This is just the line.
What's the line here, though? Pexis Blast maybe does a decent job against some of the early minions from GivePLZ.
I like a Pexis Plus here. Yep, makes sense to me. Arcane Explosion is a very good card as long as your board state continues to look like this, but if your board state continues to look like this, you are winning anyway.
2 mana, deal 3 to the enemy board is a good card, correct?
Yes.
But is it really that card? Ray of Frost as options there for GivePLZ to slow this down. I do wonder if Magic Trick is ever relevant enough to consider there, but Ray of Frost in isolation is just too good of a card, I imagine, to pass up.
Yeah, I like it. I think both cards there were very similar with the Magic Trick and the Ray of Frost because he has like Pyro, Coin, Apotheosis kind of stuff going on in his hand. So like both Ray of Frost and Magic Trick kind of play similarly with that. The argument then on the other side was like you could take the Cyclone and then perhaps put together like a Wild Pyromancer as your apprentice pop-off turn. So you like clear the board with your Wild Pyromancer and a bunch of cheap spells, and then drop the Cyclone at the end of it to refill your hand again, which was kind of interesting to me. But yeah, my first instinct was the Ray of Frost. That's probably where I would have ended up.
Yeah, for me, I was just trying to work out whether the pre-spells are good enough to make Magic Trick better than Ray of Frost. But yeah.
Interesting.
Here though, MM still continuing on with the pressure, but he does now have to stare down a Twilight Drake at say 4/9. One of the problems, Mage normally loves having targets for spells such as Ray of Frost, but I think everyone, and especially Mage, has got used to just pinging away small, 2, 3, 4 health minions, and not quite, has the ability to cleanly kill a 4/9 on turn 5.
Yeah. The dream here, of course, is Devolving Missiles, which there is a natural copy of in the deck, but only one. So definitely respect the usage. But honestly, it almost doesn't matter how big your minions are when Mage has access to this much spell damage this early in the game. Like, if MM wanted to, there were clean answers to that minion this turn. He just decided to spend his mana on developing a bit more tempo instead and just going with a single Ray of Frost. So it does make it scary to just keep committing minions into a board with this much spell damage on it.
GivePLZ is might be thinking, you know what, that spell damage looks pretty cool. I would like some of that. Give it to me. He's going to steal that Cobbled away. Pretty good pickup there for GivePLZ, honestly.
Yo. What is happening here?
I'm going to go for a lot.
Yeah,
that's the thing though, right? Should M8 take this turn to actually just clean up the board and then go with Apprentice things turn after?
Yeah, I kind of like that. There is a couple of cards he could just choose to dump out of his hand here. Like the Apexis Blast, for example, is actually just clean on the Twilight Drake this turn, but he doesn't really then do anything else to answer the board state. But
you have to take a look at Combustion, right?
Yeah, that's the alternative, but again, okay, that fills everything out quite nicely. I was going to say he doesn't necessarily have anything in his hand that goes with the Combustion, so now so he'd have to play one Thief and actually, one Maker and actually hit something relevant, which he ends up doing perfectly there with the Brain Freeze.
Wait.
What?
Couldn't you have done that differently?
How did you want to do it?
Couldn't he have Brain Froze the Twilight Drake and then Combustioned it?
So you Brain Freeze the Twilight Drake, which deals, 4? So it goes down to 2. You then Combustion it, which deals 2, and then deals 3 damage on each side. So you still have to send a damage into the 2/4,
but you save
which you
a
can
1/3,
do with the 1/3. And it's a 1/1 value trade. Yeah, that is better. Yeah.
I'm glad we had that conversation. Moving on. So yeah, just missed out on having an extra minion, and most importantly, one of those minions was a spell damage minion in the form of that lab partner, right?
Yeah.
That you could have saved.
Hey, when you're right, you're right. I am predominantly here to make fun of you when you're wrong, but willing to confess, sometimes you're right.
That's the trade-off. You have to acknowledge it when I'm correct, because...
Yeah. I'm a very, very fair human being, Raven.
I'd love to hear your definition of fair someday, sort of, but maybe not now.
It's like your definition of close.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Non-existent.
Yes.
GivePLZ is being aggroed down pretty hard right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that second Twilight Drake, but he still has Pyromancer, Apotheosis, and more. Right, so even though this looks pretty dire for him, he can just heal all the way back up here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the and more part of what you're saying there, Raven. Let's get this Raised Dead pop and see what happens. Nice. Another Cabal Acolyte with the other wave of Apathy I'm finding more exciting.
It's just good, isn't it?
Yep.
And all that work that MM78 did this game, just not been thrown away because it has cost resources, but GivePLZ just did that and still had a pretty full hand of cards somehow. Pretty incredible, honestly.
And also still just has a Yeti. Like, his Twilight Drake barely blinked at how much AoE damage was being dealt to the board there. So he's in a pretty comfortable position now, especially with the ability to snipe a big minion with the Cabal Acolyte combo that he just regenerated off the Raised Dead.
Well, that's it. If you look at GivePLZ's hand, he's got best of both worlds, right? He can respond to the board or the turn that's played, or he can just Murazon next turn if the turn's a little bit more straightforward, right?
Yeah.
If it's just like develop a few minions and stuff like Murazon. Now I've got more stuff than you again.
Yeah, it doesn't look like this is going to be a very Murazondable turn though, because of the random targeting on the Apexis Blast.
For a second, I didn't know if the Giant was going to come down, because I think if a Giant came down, it would be worthwhile because you can still coin Wave of Apathy as well.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, holding on to that Conjurer's Coin, and honestly, I'm one of the first people to say, why play a Giant out, you know, when there's a risk if you can just Giant Conjurers guaranteed the turn after. Ooh, is he going to go with Evocation?
Yeah, really?
I would have just done Conjured and see what happened.
Yeah, this is the Apprentice turn, huh? Seems kind of sus.
With no Cyclone, was this needed versus just getting a huge board? Interesting. Because he could have actually double Conjured. Not that he necessarily wanted to, but he could have actually double Conjured, couldn't he, as well?
Right. Like, there are definitely benefits to doing this. Like, he can hit Devolving Missiles, for example, which is equally, if not more so, the nuts now than it was when I first mentioned it, when the Twilight Drake hit the board on turn 4. But that's kind of a very specific outcome, because outside of that, I don't think you're expecting to hit an evocation that picks apart this entire board state, including the Death Rattle.
Definitely brave, isn't it?
But, you know, six shots at Devolving Missiles isn't that unlikely.
And to be fair, he can actually still Giant double Conjurers.
That's true, he could have done at one point,
yeah. Combustion does not look as good when he doesn't do the cleave attack, does it? Yeah, still doesn't land a Giant. That turn just still didn't achieve too much. Of course, as you mentioned, there was the chance that it did, right, which would have been huge.
Yeah.
A little bit scary, honestly, there, as GivePLZ has a bit of freedom now, and he could even just steal away this Acolyte if he wanted to. Sorry, the Apprentice if he wanted to. I don't hate it, you know. You've just seen that the...
Coins first to make the space in hand for the evocation to go off, but this turn is the true chaotic neutral line. Raven is just letting all of these random targeting effects go off here. Cone of Colding your own board looks so goofy. Like, I will never get over how dumb that animation looks. Sure.
Well, I think that could have looked a bit cooler, couldn't it?
It could, yeah.
He got Devolving Missiles, though, so he really has the last laugh.
The reason I actually kind of like that, though, is the level of disgust that he does have built up with Cabal Acolyte, Wave of Apathy, even Gift of Luminance combinations he can throw in there as well to actually make stuff happen. So I do like
multiple things.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think there's weird ways you could engineer it, right? Like, obviously, the straight-up Cabal Acolyte Gift of Luminance would eat the spell burst in the first place, which is a little disgusting, but there's definitely ways that you could engineer it. So I like him holding on to that combo. Go on.
You could do like Wave of Apathy, then Cabal Acolyte, Gift of Luminance.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That was a crazy turn though from MM. Look at that, Conjurers. Turalion just cleaning up the minion pretty easily, and then the next Conjurers on there. Got a high roll and a low roll, I guess, with the 5/6 and the 12 well.
Yep.
GivePLZ could pretty much steal a chunk of this away and feel pretty confident.
Yeah.
Looks like he's going to go for the wave first and then go. Makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, just to finish the thought, I think like because this combination is so disgusting, he wanted to hold on to it, so he needed something to spend his mana on the previous turn, right? And the only real justifiable thing, I think, was the Mirror's-Ond. It was the only thing that really filled the turn.
It's like that logic path, right? Is, okay, I have this insane combo. If my opponent responds with a big board, I have this combo. If he doesn't, sick, I'm probably winning because he's not done anything. You know, like, so yeah, it's kind of one of those win-win scenarios. There's the preemptive Wave of Apathy. Gift of Luminance, going to give him a chance to get there now.
Spellburst number 1 goes off, Spellburst number 2 stays intact, and he gets to rip another spell to steal away another one of these huge minions. And based on that outcome, it's going to be the death. There we go.
Easy.
Raven. Close.
It wasn't close. It was the one you said. It's the opposite. Now, if it got now, what you need to learn, I'll teach you this.
Okay.
If it was the Spellwing or the One Thief, then you say that the funny close.
Right.
If it was anything else, it's not the same.
Right. So the idea is just to be as wrong as possible for comedic effects. Okay.
Have you not heard me cast for the last few years?
See, I thought you were doing a bit. I didn't think it was just part of your normal casting. That's why I was getting confused. Now I understand.
That's the secret. It's always a bit.
Yeah.
This looks huge here. The Deathwing, even the sheep getting able to test being able to test for the Vaporize or anything like that. It's just all bases covered now for GivePLZ, and he simply has 2 turn set up with this Deathwing alone right now.
Yeah, and even picking up the Renew off the Wandmaker to get this Sethic train rolling potentially. Secret tested, Renew in play. He is going to get the bad news that the counterspell is going to come down, but I think he got the better news that he was able to attack face with a 12-12 on that turn.
Yeah. He had the bad news after being told, yes, you have a 12-12.
Yep.
So, yep, you'll take it. I actually really like the way GivePLZ has played this game. I think there was some very unobvious plays that he made and has really led him to get ahead. Obviously, he got fortunate with the steals, but he set that turn up.
I mean, as a pair of cards to generate in a dire situation, that's about as close to premium as you can get.
Oh, he even generated the Nova from Evocation, so he can use that one first. And then Nova next turn as well.
Yep. Yep, cash those out. So you now essentially have a third Frost Nova built up in your hand with all of those Rays of Frost that you've got to keep yourself.
For any of those who may look confused as to why Ray of Frost something you're going to Nova is, you get the second version permanently in your hand. Whereas if you left the Twin Spell, it would just disappear due to Invocation. Just in case anyone's not seen or a little bit confused by this weird ordering/interaction style.
Well, that's the thing, is there's still a debate here, because he could have Frost Nova'd first and then use the Ray of Frost to actually deal damage to the minions, so that they're actually dead in that position. But he's actually
not gonna,
he chooses not to play the Ray of Frost to generate value from the secrets as well, which is why I'm saying that's a debate. Like, that's certainly not a mistake, because he got an extra secret's worth of value out of the play by spending mana on that instead. And he's ended the turn with essentially another Frost Nova in his hand either way. So I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think either way, if Ray of Frost is 0 mana, you want to play them from Evocation to get the extra effect.
Yeah, 100%.
As long as that was done, seems good to me. Shambhala Ray of Frost, and Shambhala Frost Nova into Ray of Frost to help kill off this. This is huge.
Yeah, 6, 4, 2.
Numbers.
I mean, you might as well commit and kill it now, I'd imagine. Your opponent's at 26. You have to kill the 12 attack minion at some point if you're going to win this game.
Yeah, well, your opponent has access to heals.
Yes.
Don't give them a 12 attack minion they can heal. Was it? Whoa.
Oh.
Insane.
It's actually just an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! They're just top decking and screaming at each other right now. That's all that's happening.
Yeah, I think I was casting with Derek earlier today when we had a similar match where basically both players were just doing the best possible, like, last-ditch attempt.
Yeah.
This is an anime fight that goes on for far too many episodes, because each episode, one of these things happens.
Oh.
On wings of
His
destruction
grandfather's
they
deck
come.
contains no pathetic cards. Is that it? Is that the last push? Is there anything that MM can find to get himself out of this? That's the
there
wrong
is.
Solarian. No, it's too slow. It's the wrong Solarian. He needed that already to be in there. He needed it to be prime time right now.
Now, if he just kept his second Ray of Frost subtle, he could have double rayed the Solarian and maybe drew it next.
There's just no
He'd
way
also
this is
be
getting
dead from a death
interacted
wish.
with. That's true.
Or is it? Soul Mirror? Just to get one of his own.
Well, you could Psyche split it as well for the same effect, right? Kind of.
Wait, this... I was trying to work out whether it would make it actually not be able to trade away, but it wouldn't.
You have a 6/6, yeah. It's a bit ambitious.
Now, they're the big brain players. I'm going to buff my opponent's minion so he can't kill it. Wait.
Yeah. Yeah, crucial point though here, in between all the memes, is that GivePLZ has zero intention of interacting with that Solarian this turn. There's no way he was going to trade into it and allow the Prime to be a top deck for MM, because that is the out that he needs at this point.
Just managed to actually kill off the dragon, which is a big deal. Does mean it's not actually just lethal this turn.
Mm-hmm.
But now, Alex Straza coming down. Doesn't matter active or not active, it's just an 8/8 that MM has to draw an answer, and it has to be prime right now.
And it is not, and I struggle to imagine a Jandis that is able to deal with this situation. Sandoof Waterbearer is certainly cute, but it's still only going to heal MM back up to that magical 12 number, of which GivePLZ still has on board. So it's a valiant effort, but after two insane final games, with the Priest involved against the Demon Hunter and the Mage, it's going to be GivePLZ going up to that 8-1 record, and it's going to be GivePLZ securing himself that top 8 position, which is a massive deal for him.
It really is. And honestly, I think that was actually a great series to watch. A lot of combination of high-level plays and obviously exciting moments. But I think GivePLZ actually played very, very well. We do have to remind everyone as well, this has been a long tournament for these players. When you play a 9-round Swiss, even though we've only done 4 rounds today, they did 5 long rounds yesterday, slept a little bit, then did it all over again. And to keep playing at peak, like high-level Hearthstone, it's hard. It's hard enough to cast, and I've not really got any pressure on me. So it's a big deal to see these players still perform at this level, quite late into this tournament, when I have no doubts that they're tired and they're not only feeling the fatigue, but they're also feeling the pressure, as you mentioned. The difference between maybe getting that top 8 slot guaranteed and not is huge.
Yeah, and speaking of guaranteed spots, I think GivePLZ should have a secured top 8 spot at this point with an 8-1 record, and I believe that all but guarantees his Grandmaster standings for the following season as well, based on the prize money he had accrued already, and now adding another top 8 to that as well. So huge congratulations on another top 8. Again, I speak with no official capacity. That's just me doing some bootleg maths on the fly. Gabby, it looks like, actually fell down to a 7-2 record in the end, but still good enough on tiebreakers. Actually 3 7-2s making it through, which is a little bit surprising based on what we've seen from these Swiss results up until this point. But there you see your top 8. J4U coming out at the 9-0, the undefeated record. And then XC, the Chinese representative, coming out in second place. GivePLZ, who we just saw. Batu Paksoi, whose play I was impressed with quite a lot. And then good old Looters himself, Alotemu, rounding out the 8-1s.
Yeah, really powerful there as well. Gabby, high 3, and MM78 looking to make up the rest of the top 8. So MM gets there anyway, which I have no doubt he'll be happy with. And then let's just take a look at, unfortunately, obviously the players, the 7-2s that didn't make it, but some impressive performances. Rami in there, Boston, Monsanto. We have our sprinkling of Grandmasters still making their presence felt, Soto.
Yeah, and 7-2 is still a huge achievement, not only because it gives you a huge chunk of prize money, consistently hitting 7-2s does do a lot for you in terms of the overall standings, but also it just secures qualification for future Masters Tours, so you get to take it easy on the Open Cups a little bit here and there for some of those players. That's a big deal as well, but yeah, great seeing a lot of consistency from the Grandmasters, and I will do Lorinda's job for him and throw out one final commendation to Monsanto for being one of the GMs with the wherewithal to stick it out after going 0-1 and not just dropping out of the tournament and getting rewarded for it with a 7-2 finish.
Yeah, it's a big deal and it's impressive. And honestly, the longer this kind of thing goes on, the more we will be talking about a lot of the grandmasters that are still feel like they have that competitive drive and just want to compete in Hearthstone in these big fields of Swiss, because there just isn't anything like it. Honestly, yes, in grandmasters they play throughout weeks, but when you just jump into a 300-person Swiss and you have to fight it out over so much Hearthstone, really put your lineup to the test, it is pretty great. And we do get to see there what our top 8 matches are going to look like as well. So not only just the players, but what their starting matchups are going to be, because tomorrow, Sottle, there is no extra rounds. There's no, lives you can save here. It is just single elimination.
Win or go home, simple as that. And I am really looking forward to that final matchup there in our quarterfinals. GivePLZ has really, really impressed me with his consistency throughout the seasons and also just his play from what we've seen today. And of course, Gabby is Gabby. I've said it once, I've said it twice, I'll say it again. I think Gabby is on the trajectory to become the best player in the world. A lot of people call him that already. I don't think you can do that based on ladder results alone, and he doesn't really have the tournament results to back that up right now. But what is the case is that most of the players who have gone on to be regarded as the best players in the world were dominating ladder for some period, about 12 to 18 months, before they were then regarded as the best player in the world. You can look at Huntrage, you can look at Muzzy, you can look at all these players who have done that in the past. Gabby is absolutely on that trajectory, so I think that could be a real highlight match to look out for tomorrow.
I agree. I said to Derek earlier, for me, Gabby, it's not a question of if, it's just a question of when. For him, I think it's going to happen. It is just when. This year, next year, year after, doesn't matter. It will happen at some point. But I agree, that is going to be the highlight quarterfinal for me. But it doesn't mean we have tons of Hearthstone coming up tomorrow and we'll be able to crown our champion. But from us here, we are done for the day. So thanks a lot for watching. We appreciate it, and we'll see you tomorrow for finals day.